So I was out with Lizzie home in the gardens, and Pat, my neighbor, and sort of got involved in plants and maybe some paving stones along the garden. And as I walked over here, I thought, why would anybody want to talk about the dramatic monologue? So I have to adjust my psychic space here and think, I think dramatic monologues are really cool. What are they? A dramatic monologue is simply a poem in which the poet takes on the persona of another character who speaks the poem. And that's actually really important. When I was a much younger reader, I would occasionally read a dramatic monologue not knowing that that's what it was, and was totally nonplussed. It's like, why would the poet want to talk about this? So you need to pay attention to that, but you won't have to in here because we're going to read dramatic monologues. So the I of the poem is not the poet. And when reading any poem, you need to think about this. Who is speaking? How do you know? Is anybody listening? So we start with Robert Browning, who really created this poetic form. And I think every one of his dramatic monologues has a listener, a person identified as the listener. The later works often don't. They're just the creation of the poet adopting a persona as another character, but not addressed to anybody. Often they'll take the form of letters. There's an addressee, but sometimes nobody's implied at all. No, because we're going to be doing a lot of reading. Thank you, Belle. And my apologies to the online audience if the quality of what they're seeing isn't great. But I do want to stay, and you're here. I'd love to be engaged with you in the reading process. So if we get distracted by this, it's not so great. Okay, so this form came into its own as a poetic form with the Victorian poet Robert Browning, and you all know the story of Robert Browning and Elizabeth Barrett Browning, the invalid. They lived in Italy, and Browning was trying his chops as a theater person. He wanted to write plays. He hated working with other people. So that means you're not going to be too good in the theater, doesn't it? So the dramatic monologue was the obvious outgrowth of his discomfort working with other people. I'm now created pops. Is that okay? All right. So my last Duchess, before we start, how many of you know this poem? Lots of you. Okay, so it isn't going to be quite the mystery to you that it often is to first readers of this poem. Okay. And Ed and I were not able to get the website connection to a really great reading. So I'm sorry, you'll have to accept my reading of My Last Duchess. And I will be impersonating the Duke, giving a tour of his art collection to an emissary from another court. As part of the tour, the Duke shows a painting of his late wife and retells the story of their marriage. Okay? Here we go. Oops, here we don't go. There's the wonderful audio, can't get it. Too bad. All right, My Last Duchess, Ferraro. That's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now. Frau Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. Would please you sit and look at her? I said Frau Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance. But to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn from you, but I. And seemed as they would ask me, if they durst, how such a glance came there. So not the first are you to turn and ask thus, Sir, 'twas not her husband's presence only, call that spot of joy to the Duchess' cheek. Perhaps Frau Pandolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Hold on just a second. Anne, can I get you to use the button to move the slides so that the slides correspond to what I'm reading? Because I'm finding my fractured attention difficult. Okay. Sir, 'twas not her husband's presence only, call that spot of joy into the Duchess' cheek. Perhaps Frau Pandolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much. Or, paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half-flush that dies along her throat. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. She had... It's a big arrow. Got it? She had a heart. How shall I say?
But we've all got the paper.
Yeah, right. It's the outside audience that's going to be too bad. It's fine.
The typeface just changed.
Yeah, okay. Libby, you're in charge. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad, too easily impressed. She liked whate'er she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. Sir, 'twas all one, my favor at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries, some officious fool broke in the orchard for her. The white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least. She thanked me. Good, but thanked somehow. I don't know how. As if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. Who'd stoop to blame this sort of trifling? Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such a one, and say, just this or that, and you discuss me, here you miss or there exceed the mark. And if she let herself be lessoned so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth, and made excuse, in them would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whene'er I passed her, but who passed without much the same smile? This grew. I gave commands. Then all smiles stopped together. There she stands as if alive. Will please you rise? We'll meet the company below then, I repeat, the count, your master's known munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, is my object. Nay, we'll go down together, sir. Notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse, thought a rarity, which Klaus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. Okay. Robert Browning today would probably be writing script for one of the PBS mystery stories, you think? Yeah. How are we doing with it? Is it working? No. Okay, all right. All right, does anybody know who he's talking to? From the very end of the poem. So let's see with the mics. You do that side, I'll do this side.
He's talking to the emissary sent by the father of his next wife.
The emissary from the court for the father of his next wife. Yes. And that's right at the end of the poem, where he's pretending to be quite the egalitarian, isn't he? Oh, nay, sir, go down. You go first. Is that false? What do we know about this guy? What do you think about this guy? Ann, do you want to roam around over here?
He's an opportunist.
He's an opportunist? What makes you say that?
Well, he's showing off what he has.
He's showing off what he has.
His knowledge
And the fact
that he has something else cast in bronze yet.
Right.
He has a 900-year-old name that he is proud of.
He has a 900-year-old name that he's proud of.
I guess I always wonder if after this interview, the emissary goes back to the count and says, "Don't you give your daughter into that man's care." You know, he's a monster.
He's a monster.
But I doubt it, knowing what dowries and court alliances and everything. I think the daughter is like, nobody really thinks much of her. She's just a pawn to get a big dowry.
She's a pawn to get a big dowry.
Yeah.
I think that that's absolutely right. And there's a poem by a contemporary poet, well, our contemporary, he died about 10 years ago, Richard Howard, who wrote a sequel to this, in which the emissary proposes to his count that they do the dowry in installments so that she can't die. She can't die.
My English is sort of limited. What does forsooth mean?
Forsooth. Forsooth. Does anybody know the etymology of that? Forsooth. For truth? For truth. Or to be honest. All right, somebody take out their phone and Google that. All right, your English is pretty good if that's the only one. You just stumped us. Does anybody know? It's an old word. Nancy, yeah.
I think it means, let her have the mic.
I think it means I swear.
I swear for truth.
Yeah.
Okay, forsooth. All right. I'm going to give this to somebody else while you're busy with your Google. Let's see. Who can I call on? Who's paying attention here? Paul, are you ready to jump up and down with the mic as you see hands go up? Thank you. He's just helping me. What do you think about the very first line? That's my last Duchess painted on the wall.
He may have had a few more.
How many has he had? And like that's your first warning. Your first setup. That's my late Duchess painted on the wall. And even the language. Here she is painted on the wall behind a curtain. Look at that. Since none puts by the curtain I have drawn from you, but I'm in charge of her now. So you get this sense of foreboding once you read the poem a second time, or a third. Jim, you're looking puzzled?
Well, I could say the Count is a control freak.
The Count is a control freak.
He has her on the wall
Yes.
and framed. She's frozen he talks about her, but the sense is he's in charge of the whole thing. And that's one feeling that comes out of this. It's a relationship frozen in painting. It's not dynamic anymore.
Excellent, excellent, yes. So in other words, she's become part of the Count's art collection. And I love that this poem ends with that, because if you didn't get that, you get it at the end, don't you? Nay, we'll go down together, sir. Ha. Notice Neptune, though. So here, okay, we've gone from here's the wife. Oh, but notice Neptune. And look what he chooses, Browning chooses. Notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse. What's the relationship there? Holy crow. A lot of power. Neptune is the sea god, taming a seahorse. What hope is it for that seahorse? He loves that. So notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse, thought a rarity which Klaus at Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. Great stuff.
Forsooth,
Okay, hold on, we got forsooth. And Dave, hold your thought, don't lose it.
forsooth, is it true indeed? Often used to imply contempt or doubt.
Can somebody give her a mic? I can't hear her.
Where's that mic?
over there, I'll go over.
Okay. You get exercise in this class.
It says the meaning of forsooth is in truth, indeed, often used to imply contempt or doubt.
Contempt or doubt, forsooth. I'm not sure about that part. I don't think that's right, or necessarily right. Nancy? Not right. We are.
I wouldn't have read it that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm struck by another word. I'm struck by another word. Your fair daughter is my object.
Yes, excellent, Eva. You with your poor English. Yeah, it's excellent, excellent. My object, yes. The Count, your master's no munificence is ample warrant. Listen to that little language. That no just pretense, where is this language, my God, for dowry will be disallowed, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed and started, is my object. Dave.
Well, another whole area of this is, I never noticed before, this poem is a series of rhyme couplets, and you'd never notice that it's that way. It's so skillfully carried into the next line, so beautifully.
Isn't that an extraordinary thing? I don't know. Did you guys notice that this is written in rhyming couplets? It's iambic pentameter rhyming couplets. Holy crow. Caught up in the narrative. What?
I looked at
Yeah.
rhymes
Yeah.
rather than,
Yeah.
and I was impressed with how you read it.
Well, because if you read the jams, the enjamming ones, with the run-on lines, which you should read that way, you don't want to, that's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder. He didn't write it that way. He's got these line breaks which force your reading into the next line. And then he's got all this stuff going on as if he were writing a play with the parentheses and the long dashes and the quotation marks and the hesitations. So he is recreating on paper the quality of someone's speech. Tricky, it's hard to do, but he has really done it quite successfully. Yeah. Oh, you want the mic?
I was just thinking about the visuals here. You can imagine this is a huge matter, right? And this is so typical of people of a certain privilege, right? Whether it's clergy people or princes or dukes or duchesses, you know. I mean, the class piece is really visually communicated here, right? Because this would be standard fare, and it represents the lineage, right? And so there are many duchesses, there are many dukes, I'm sure. She's hardly the only one. I think it's a lovely visual movement into that kind of aristocracy.
Capturing the announcement of the wealth and the lineage through all this stuff. And in the Richard Howard poem that is a sequel to this, he talks about that. It's a decrepit thing with a slimy old moat around it. Yeah.
Just expand on that. He certainly makes clear that that he is his gift of a 900-year-old name puts him above everybody else. But you see the way in which he disparages others. That is, the bough of cherry, some officious fool broke in the orchard for her. As well as the dropping of daylight at her breast, and the fact that she was so polite to Fra Pandolf, who obviously a monk of some sort, but certainly no 900-year-old name there. I mean, so the way he talks about others of a different class makes it all very clear as well. The officious fool is just like the white mule. Why would anybody care about those people when they've got me?
Yes. The other side of that is, what do you learn about her? Neville?
She had her heart too soon made glad. So he thinks that she's a little bit of a patsy. Too easily impressed.
Too easily impressed. That's what he thinks.
Yeah.
What do you think?
She was too happy. She was a very
I think she was.
She was a sweet kid.
She was a flirt.
No.
That's implied. Yeah.
I think that's implied. I think that you're set up for that. She had a heart. So I'm at the very bottom of the first page. How shall I say? Too soon made glad. Too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. And you think, this is it. She was fooling around, or she was too easy. But then it turns out that what he's talking about is she smiled too easily at everyone. Not that she was in any way loose. Shirley?
He really disliked that she treated everyone equally. That was a problem for him. Because his gifts and he himself, who he was, his privilege, was way above all the others.
Way above all the others.
In his eyes.
In his eyes.
His 900-year-old
Yeah.
name.
And imagine, and probably the girl was somewhere in the age of 13 to 16. Just a kid coming in and smiling at everyone and saying, "Oh, cheers, thank you so much. I love my mule." She had a heart too easily impressed. Yeah.
Sunset's beautiful.
Who's got the mic over there? Oh, Dallas has the mic. Hi, Dallas.
Yeah, I think he's a vain too, because he said he's not going to stoop to anybody.
I choose never to stoop. Is that contradicted by his polite, "Nay, we'll go down together, sir"? I don't think so. I think that's this false front.
I mean, that is, he would not even try to get her to do the right thing.
Right.
She should have known, in his view, she should have known what his gift of a 900-year-old name meant and how she should act. And if she needed to be told that he couldn't say to her, "Excuse me, I'm your hubby, I've got 900-year-old name, I'm not really the same as your mule." He didn't want to tell her things like that.
I choose never to stoop. This is not going to work in a family therapy issue. He's hopeless. Marie?
Well, it just struck me the difference between Princess Diana and Catherine. Kate? Kate. Diana was one of the people, and she made friends wherever she went.
She was a Spencer, but not exactly.
But she
was friendly.
But the Middletowns were not royalty. But Kate Middleton has really captured, I think, the imaginations of everyone. She's doing it all right, whereas Princess Diana did not. I'm really impressed with how you all are looking at this poem, because I was an English major many decades ago, and I never ever went through a poem like this before. So thank you very much.
Oh yes, this is what's fun. I mean, it really is kind of, except for the people who think, what?
Hi, Peggy, hi. I was an English major too, and I never went through a poem like this.
Thank you.
And so I'm saying to myself, I mean, this is great. I'm saying, why did he write this?
Oh boy.
That's a good question.
Can we just do the rhymes? All right, here's a guy who's trying to write plays. Why do you write a play? I mean, why do people write anything, really? I think I can't go there. He lives in Italy.
Did he live in?
He's living in Italy. He's seeing these portraits on the wall. He's seeing all these palazzos and things. So, you know, he probably says, "Oh, I wonder what's behind that portrait."
Maybe that's the question you're asking, Dallas. Not the big question, why does he write a dramatic monologue, but why does he write this dramatic monologue? Is that right? Can we interpret this? I was going much too big, too broad. It's like, why do you write? Why do you write about this guy? He was living, he and Elizabeth Barrett eloped, and they went to live in Florence? Oh, I think Florence.
I think it was Florence, yeah.
Anyway, Italy, art-rich Italy. And he knew, it is Florence actually, because he knew the story of the Medicis. And this is actually probably based on the marriage of one of the Medici girls, 13-year-old, sold to the Duke. The Duke with his 900-year-old name, and the Medicis, these nouveau riche people. So there's the seed of a poem. Wonder what, was she poisoned or did she die of TB? Oh, I think she might have been poisoned. Now there's a cool story. I would like that, right? That's why I say I think he would have been a great writer of PBS mystery stories. That imagination goes to work. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Dallas?
It wasn't Dallas.
It was your question, Peggy, I'm sorry. Sort of?
Sort of, but no wonder I never liked my poetry.
Are we making too much of this?
No, this is terrific.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a criticism. Okay, good.
So, I have one more question.
Wait, where? Oh, Eva. Okay.
At the top it says Ferrara. Does it mean it's the Duke?
It's the Duke of Ferrara. Yeah, the Duke of Ferrara. Are you holding the mic or are you speaking?
Into the light.
Right here. Then all smiling stopped. I gave commands, which is the chilling thing about all this, is that did he kill her or did he not?
Of course he did, but
the question is, why does he have a curtain hanging over the picture?
Because he wants to exercise complete control over her even now.
Sure.
Okay. We need to work on the cooperation around the mic.
It makes it's too much. It makes sense to me that a playwright wrote this, because if I looked at a painting, I would look at the composition, I would look at all the elements of a painting, and he looked at the painting and saw the story.
And there are, how many of you read that wonderful book by Maggie O'Farrell called The Marriage Portrait, which I think is based on this poem, and all those stories? It's a wonderful book. Why am I telling you this?
Because an artist looks at a painting.
Because an artist, all these artists, the marriage portrait is a thing. You know, the Duke gets Here's a portrait of my last Duchess. The other one's over there on the other wall. Jim?
You asked why he wrote this poem. It makes me question the relationship that he had with Elizabeth, because there's a paranoid element in the writing of the character here. And I remember back in high school, I played Old Man Barrett in the Barretts of Wimpole Street. And Elizabeth's father was not very excited about the relationship between Elizabeth and Robert. Maybe he knew something.
Or he was a controlling father who wanted his invalid daughter to stay at home and greet his guests. Possible. There's a, not very good, but I happen to know, a Margaret Atwood short story called My Last Duchess, in which a teenager and her boyfriend discuss this poem. And she reads, "That's my last Duchess painted on the wall," and she thinks he killed her. And he says, and they have this whole sort of conversation where he keeps expressing total dismay. It's like, how do you see that? Which I think is the experience of some people interacting with poetry. It's like, where do you see that? And then we talk about it and you say, oh, okay, but I don't see it right away. So I'm very sympathetic to that sort of dismay. It's like, how do you see that? Well, we just do. And sharing that experience can be a real pleasure, I think. So from this very dramatic, nasty poem, I thought it would be a nice change of pace to read something about a happy marriage between young people, teenagers. The River Merchant's Wife, a letter by Ezra Pound. So here's the other great creator of the modern poetry tradition. So Browning gives us the dramatic monologue, as you've just seen. Ezra Pound. We have Ezra Pound? We have Ezra Pound. And I wrote something. He arguably did more than any other poet to create the 20th century revolution in English and American poetry. The fact is, next slide. There are a whole lot of people who will not read Ezra Pound poetry because he was a terrible man. I let this one sneak in because it was written early enough so that, honestly, I think he was crazy. That's my excuse for him. I don't much like his poetry as it goes on because it's contemptuous of me. It dismisses the reader. You have to have a PhD in 5 different things to read his poems. Speak Greek, that's not what I want my poetry to be. But anyway, he was virulently anti-Semitic. He's living in Italy, Mussolini's government, and working for them. So he was an anti-American, pro-fascist, and his treasonous work on behalf of Mussolini got him convicted of treason, and he spent, 10 years in a mental institution instead of going to prison.
St. Elizabeth's.
St. Elizabeth's.
St. E's, as we used to call it, we Washingtonians.
Oh, so that's who this guy is. This is an early poem when he was still doing what he called imagism. And it's just a sweet, lovely poem.
Want to say anything about Li Po before you start or not?
Oh, could you say something about Li Po?
All I know is that Li Po is a famed Chinese poet. That's all I know.
Li Po is an 8th century famous Chinese poet.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't think...
I've seen many other poets have written poems based on his work.
Yes, and it sometimes comes across as Li, B-A-I-N, so that the name gets transcribed differently. Excuse me. I'm sorry, every once in a while I run into the limits of my own bank of knowledge. I don't think that Pound spoke Chinese. Did he?
I don't know. I think, anyone else know? I mean, I think he actually wrote a number of poems that were taken from Chinese sources, but I don't know if he knew Chinese or
whether
not.
he knew Chinese or not. Yes, so this is the early stuff. If you think about the haikus that you all know, the lovely, very specific imagery. You know, all the crickets on the leaf flowing down the river, or the moonlight's coming through the broken attic, and you celebrate the moonlight over the poverty. Just
He did not speak Chinese. I looked it up.
Did you? Were you that specific, Marie? You said.
I said,
did Pound speak?
Did Ezra Pound speak Chinese? That's what I put into my, and it said, no, Ezra Pound did not speak or read Chinese. While he translated Chinese poetry, he relied on the linguistic notes of Ernest somebody, and an American professor of Japanese art who had studied Chinese under a Japanese teacher. So Ezra Pound was a bit removed, but he looked at the notes provide line-by-line translation, which Pound then recast into his own poetic form.
Is that about this specific poem or just
what he's I asked
translation? Okay, super, great. So picture a little Chinese girl with her hair cut, you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. While my hair was still cut straight across my forehead, I played about the front gate, pulling flowers. You came by on bamboo stilts, playing horse. You walked about my seat, playing with blue plums. And we went on living in the village of Chokan, two small people without dislike or suspicion. At 14, I married my Lord Liu. I never laughed, being bashful. Lowering my head, I looked at the wall. Called to 1,000 times, I never looked back. At 15, I stopped scowling. I desired my dust to be mingled with yours, forever and forever and forever. Why should I climb a lookout? At 16, you departed. You went into far Ku To En by the river of swirling eddies. And you have been gone 5 months. The monkeys make sorrowful noise overhead. You dragged your feet when you went out. By the gate now the moss is grown, the different mosses, too deep to clear them away. The leaves fall early this autumn in wind. The paired butterflies are already yellow with August over the grass in the west garden. They hurt me. I grow older. If you are coming down through the narrows of the river Yang, please let me know beforehand, and I will come out to meet you as far as Cherry Fu Song. That's just such a sweet poem, written by a 16-and-a-half-year-old girl, maybe 16, who's been married for a few years now. The river merchant's wife, a letter. There's no villain here, is there? No villain. Just a celebration of growing into a marriage by two children who have known each other. What you think? So let's see, where's the second mic?
This is an exceedingly lonely letter. This person is extremely lonely and down. That's the impression I have. If it's a love story, she's very sad.
She misses him. She She misses him.
Yeah, yes, she misses him, but he's been gone, it seems, more than 5 months. Is she 16 when she writes this, or is she some years older?
At 16, you departed. You went into Far Kutian. You've been gone 5 months. Now he's a young man, presumably part of the family of merchants, river merchants. So he's grown into his job. He has to be on the water.
You said what I was going to say.
Okay, yeah. He has to be out there. He's a river merchant. Yeah. And how did she feel about getting married when she was 14? At 14, I married my Lord You. I never laughed, being bashful. Lowering my head, I looked at the wall. Called to 1,000 times, I never looked back. Not ready for this, huh? Not ready. At 15, I stopped scowling. I desired my dust to be mingled with yours forever and forever and forever. Why should I climb the lookout? What do you think about that? That's a little bit of a mystery, but what happened?
They grew to love each other.
They grew to love each other.
She grew into her role as a wife.
She grew into her role as a wife.
She stopped being bashful. She stopped scowling. I mean, she at first, at 14, all too much for her in whatever way, she retreated. And at 15, she really knew that she wanted to love him forever, or she did love him. She felt forever. I don't know what the lookout is. But
I've often wondered about that lookout. We'll puzzle over that in just a second. But yeah, it's on. Just hold it up to you.
Isn't it that there would be a lookout for people, for river merchants, to come down the river all the time?
Oh, so she's not looking. She's also not looking for him.
Sort of a balcony or something at the top of a building.
We put the mic back here. You guys are in charge of it.
It's something that at the top of a building. Castles had turrets where they used as lookouts. This was a house that probably had some sort of a structure up over where they would look for people coming home.
I was thinking maybe that as a youngster, she was questioning whether she may have made a mistake. And climbing the lookout is, might I have done better, or should I be happier with somebody else? And she had put that behind her. She was satisfied with what she had.
Okay, or another version of that would be, I don't want to be here. So I climb the lookout and I look out at all the other places. Can we get that? Oh, there we go.
Well, this was before he had left.
Yeah.
She didn't
Why?
have any need to climb the lookout.
She has no need to climb the lookout. He's not gone, and she's happy at home. So that's captured in that one line. Why should I climb the lookout? With all that's implied there. Philip, did you?
Yeah, I was also thinking he does a nice job of evoking both Chinese and Japanese haikus, which have to do with impermanence. So the fall, things dying. It's really lovely. The leaves fall early this autumn and wind. The paired butterflies are already yellow with August over the grass of the west garden. It's very common in haikus. It's about things passing away, and it gives a nice kind of visual and melancholy touch.
It does, yeah. And also very haiku-like. Exactly. Yes. I can't think of a haiku that doesn't in some way have something to do with the celebration of the moment in the river of impermanence that we live in. Who's got the mic, Phil?
I've got it.
Hold on a second. Paul, hold on just a second.
I was surprised to see the phrase "my lord." That's so British. That's common in British terminology.
Oh, but I think that.
But here, it indicates a distance. And so 14, I married up. I married way up, my Lord. And I had to respect him. And I never laughed at that. But then she leaves all that behind. So to me, the lookout is either a place where the two of them had fun, or I think more probably, I don't need to look for another. I made the right decision.
Right. If he speaks the complete satisfaction that she has found in herself with him in this marriage, I think that these societies, the 8th century Chinese society, was highly patriarchal. And so she probably didn't have a choice about who she was going to marry. And probably the guy that she marries is my Lord Yu. And so there's a lot. Browning would have made a very different case out of this, right? She was literal. And that was part of the reason I chose this poem, because, yeah.
I just assumed that my Lord was the way she needed to address her husband in a patriarchal society.
Yes.
Whatever that they were of the same rank, but he was her Lord.
My Lord Yu. Lord and Master. Paul, I forgot.
The last two verses suggest death, and I think she fears that he has died. It's clear that he didn't want to leave, and the fact that she says it, you dragged your feet when it went out. That was a progenitor of his death, because she describes the river that he went to, far away and swirling eddies. And I think she thinks he's drowned in those eddies. And that's why she mentioned them. And the monkeys make sorrowful noise, as if those animals had some premonition that we might go sorry.
Okay. I don't dispute that reading. It just never occurred to me. I thought that it was the sense that as she's growing into her adulthood, she becomes aware of the impermanence of human life and that haiku-like quality.
But much of the last stanza suggests death.
Yes, well, I'm saying I don't dispute that. I'm bumping up against it for the first time.
He's never coming back.
Mike over to
Her Lord is never coming back.
Oh, I don't like this reading.
I grow older, she said. He's never coming back.
Oh my goodness.
But it's only 5 months.
It's only 5 months. He's a river merchant. He's probably gone.
She's 16 years old.
And she's 16 years old.
And how's she growing older?
Because she's suddenly become aware, because of their separation for 5 months, she's just suddenly become aware of the impermanence of human life and the things that can befall. This is a new reading for me. I don't know.
I would agree with them, because to me the swirling eddies in one line, and 2 lines later it says the monkeys make sorrowful noise, means he has died.
Well, she doesn't know that he has died, does she?
No, but
okay.
Okay. But the other thing that later on that puzzles me totally is they hurt me. Who did this? I mean, who hurt her?
The butterflies, knowing that they're going to die. The paired butterflies are already yellow with August over the grass in the West Garden. They hurt me. I grow older.
They're paired.
They're paired.
Yes, they're paired.
They're a couple.
They're a couple. And they're highly mortal. Yeah. So she's writing him a letter. Thanks for your good work, Charlie.
This may be nitpicky, but she says, if you are coming down through the Narrows, and if she was confident he was coming back, she would say when you're coming down. But she says if. So I think she does think he's not coming back.
It's possible.
Okay, please let me know beforehand and I will come out to meet you as far as Chofu-san. Well, okay guys, those of you who are not English majors, this is the stuff we English majors love. It's like, really? Well, I don't think so, but say more. It's like, oh, the poem has these dimensions to it. It's nice. Paul wants to say more. David, could you pass the mic?
There's another one.
The very ending suggests something that wouldn't have.
Could you use the mic so we can hear?
The very ending suggests something that wouldn't have been normal in that age, in that country. She's desperate because she thinks he's dead. And as I said, there's a lot of symbolism in that whole stanza with the mosses, the butterflies, the grass. Everything is growing up and dying. But she wants to meet him. Now that's an aggressive kind of an attitude that a woman would not likely have, to go by herself far away to look for a man who she wants to meet. And
that's her husband, by the way.
Yes, but that doesn't matter. She was in that age, in that place. She is a woman, and a young woman, and she's desperate. But the desperation says it all.
Okay, the desperation says it all, which to me has, at least until today, bespoken the love and the missing. And somebody, Nora, poor Charlie has to walk around this chair. You don't move the chair.
Actually, I had the same first response as David, that he wasn't coming back. And I think the autumnal melancholy gives me that feeling. It's autumn can be melancholic, and that emphasizes also the transitory nature of life. I do think it was a happy marriage. If I can think both those things, contradictory, happy marriage, but it's not a happy ending. It gives me a chill.
Oh, hello.
Well, I'm curious about what the first line of the last stanza means. You dragged your feet when you went out.
It really is a happy marriage. He didn't want to leave. She didn't want him to leave. But he's a boy becoming a man. He has to do his work. He's a river merchant.
Yeah, but I think it could also be more than that.
Okay.
What I read into that is that he had a premonition or a knowledge that he may not be returning, that he had been sent to do something that was dangerous or would put him in peril.
Oh, this is so great.
I was wondering if Chofu, because the way the conversation's going, if Chofu-sa is not a specific place, but more like an allusion to something like Shangri-La, she will meet him on the other side or something.
I had the same thought.
That's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far.
I don't know. It could be a Romeo and Juliet story, and she's predicting her suicide.
Oh my God.
Now we're really going far. Can I ask you,
It's like I got 5 minutes up here.
how would he never know? Would there be giving word to other people on the river or mail?
Sounds like.
You know, he's only gone 5 months, and I think that she says, I grow older. And that's the perspective of a 16-year-old. We who see, we're doing labs every year. And she's thinking 5 months is forever.
Forever, yes. Yeah. For them,
where he's going is dangerous. He went to
the swirling eddies.
Swirling eddies, and down below. If you're coming back down through the narrows of the River Kiang, so he maybe had a premonition. I may not come back because of the danger. So it's there.
Well, I'm going to have to go do some homework on this poem and find out about what's involved in this journey. You know, is it a dangerous journey? Is being gone 5 months a reasonable thing for a river merchant? I have no idea.
But the other, the mosses going, the different mosses too deep. The leaves fall early, the paired butterfly or the yellow. There's too many signs for her. She's worried.
I do think she's worried. She's worried, she's lonely. I acknowledge the worry. I don't think he's dead.
I don't see
We have one more comment from Paul. He's going to nail it down for us.
Okay. I just want to point out that when there are words here that are very significant, the swirling eddies is very significant, but also we glossed over the narrows. What's significant about the narrows? When the river is narrow between towering walls, the current is faster.
And that's why, so the idea that, please let me know beforehand, I will come to meet you as far as Chofu Sa. In other words, she's not going to go into the dangerous waters. She's going to meet him halfway. I took it to be that she was meeting him halfway.
Yes.
But no, you're saying she's not going to go to the dangerous part of the river.
Well, but it's him who's going to be
I know,
yeah. And that's just another way of suggesting that what the poet says to us is that he's dead. Well, she thinks and we don't know if he's dead, but she thinks he's dead.
Okay.
I don't agree.
Oh, yay! Wait, Diane, where's that mic? Pass the mic over. Hold on a second, and then Sarah will get to you.
A bit of trivia about Ezra Pound. His early childhood, he lived in a home in Wyncote, Pennsylvania, within walking distance of the Jenkintown train station. And he went to Chelton Hills Elementary School.
No swirling eddies.
No swirling eddies here. And went to Hamilton College. Yes. Sarah, hold the mic right up to your mouth.
I disagree because the way I'm reading it is that she is 16 now, and she's just, for the first time, feeling her own mortality and his mortality, both. And all those hints along the way point to mortality. The leaves falling in early autumn, the paired butterflies who are yellowing in August. And she says, all these signs, they hurt me. I grow older. Now, you know, there's a moment in childhood where you suddenly realize that you are actually mortal. And that's what I think she's having this moment of truth about both herself and her husband, who she loves and worries about.
That's my reading of the poem. Thank you, Sarah. Goodbye. Next Tuesday, we're going to work on Denise Lettertoft's poem called A Tree Telling of Orpheus. And many of you have read that poem with me. I think it is a truly great poem, and great poems deserve to be read over and over again. And that one is for Jerry Bartlett, who thinks that's also her favorite poem. Okay.